half-decent team would have beaten Liverpool today. A half-decent Manchester United team would have, gone all over that Liverpool team. And Liverpool, to be fair, where does that leave them? Look, I mean, they've had a good start to the season. This is the first time I've seen them live in probably a month or two. And I've been asked, obviously seen them on television, but been asked a couple of times, will Liverpool win the league? I don't think they will. I thought that before the game today. The Klopp factor is something that's always interesting because he's done the distance, and I think some of the players in that dressing room have been in major battles with Manchester City and obviously overtaken them in one season, so they know their way around the block. But they're short, I think, in terms of the overall sort of what will be level. And I think Arsenal next week, look, it'll be a different game. Every game's different. We're doing the Liverpool-Arsenal game here next week, and it'll be another good test for Liverpool. And it'll be a good test for Arsenal from where they are as well. But an Arsenal team playing as they are, and Liverpool playing as they playing today, Arsenal win next week here if the performances levels are the same. So yeah, it was a really flat day. It was a really sort of a weird sort of day, in Liverpool. But Liverpool, they're near the top of the league and they've done pretty well. I go back a few months when they missed out on the two central midfield players that went to Chelsea, the holding midfield players, and we all thought Liverpool would struggle this season a little bit because they haven't got a holding midfield player. So where they are at this moment is a surprise to us all, and they're doing really well. So we shouldn't, kick them too much today for what's happened. But that was a poor performance. The play in the final third was so sloppy, and yeah, they were well off it. Just not themselves at all.
Okay, let's widen out in terms of the title race. Manchester City, how are you reading what's going on there at the moment?
I'm not just saying it, I expected this, post-treble. I said it at the start of the season that I tipped Arsenal for the league. Manchester City could win the league by 10 points. So I say that every time I do this interview. But I just felt post-treble, you cannot reach that high in your life and then stay there. You just can't. You have to dip after that. There's always a little bit of there's always that sort of feeling that, we can just go out and we don't have to maybe do the things that we did to climb the mountain. And what's happening is they're getting a little bit of a, clip round the ear. They're getting a bloody nose from time to time. And yesterday again, and I used the word complacency a few weeks ago. I stand by it. I know Pep Guardiola snapped back, but there's no doubt that when you sort of don't play at the levels that you should do, and you're thinking that it's just going to happen, and you get 2-0 up, and you get, thinking things are just going to sort of ease its way to the end of a game. It doesn't work like that. And that's what happens when you are a touch complacent, when you just step off the gas a touch. But it's giving teams a chance. It's giving Arsenal a chance. It's giving Villa. It's giving Liverpool. It's giving all the teams a chance. And everyone that plays City now feels they can get a point off them. But it could turn in the new year. For City, it could be that they're just a little bit bored, a little bit sort of the games aren't motivating them as much because they've achieved such a great, feat last season. They could get to February, the games start coming thick and fast. They're in the Champions League. The knockout phases of that, the big league games start coming up, the adrenaline starts running, all of a sudden the football and the seriousness and the concentration and the focus start, and that's when City are dangerous. So these are the teams at this moment in time, they've got to get a fair few points lead because they'll need that lead because City will hunt them down, and they could overtake them if they're not very good themselves in the running.
Do you think we as a football watching public overreact these days to every spillage of points by any of the big teams? Because we've got into this mindset in the City era of 95, 6, 8, 100 points to win the Premier League. And perhaps, actually, this time they will all spill a few points and somebody will win it with 88.
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, look what they've achieved in the last few years. They've been absolutely off the scale sensational in terms of the points tally. But if you set a standard, that's your standard. If you drop below that, then people are obviously going to say it's a drop in standards. And that's all we're saying. It's un-City-like. It's not Pep. It's not what we see from Pep's team. I mean, what's the record? They've not won in 5 out of the last 6 league games or something. I can't remember what it is, but they've had some real difficult moments in the last few weeks. They drop points that you would never expect them to drop, and yeah, you get a little bit of people aren't whacking them. I mean, we're not sat here saying City are rubbish or they're appalling. I mean, we sat here and said that Manchester United over the last few weeks have been shambolic. Manchester City are just below their level. But they've built up so much credit in the bank over the last few years that they're allowed that few months off at the start of a season where they do drop below the level, and they're still only a few points off the top of the league. So they're still in the mix and they're still where you would want to be in the pack, ready to go. And if they're there in February, they'll be incredibly dangerous. But the reason I've said Arsenal are going to win the league is I'm banking on You know, those little bits of injuries you get post-treble, that little bit of post-treble sort of what would be complacency or drop-off that you get. And I'm banking on Arsenal keeping their main players fit. I do think Arsenal are the only challengers for City. I never bought into the Liverpool thing. That was before today. It could happen just because purely Klopp. They could do something in January in terms of strengthening that midfield that could make them sort of go that little bit closer. But I do feel Arsenal are a better team than Liverpool.